Hello and welcome. I will now read into the record this notice to Sergey Brin, which is an affidavit of accusation for crimes that Sergey Brin has committed against me, the man calling himself Peter Andrew of the Nolan family. So, from the free man commonly called Peter Andrew of the Nolan family, standing in God's kingdom, in care of Instant Business Intelligence, 17 CA Rossetti, 2nd District, Bucharest, Romania. Fax number and email supplied. 2. Lawful notice to respondent, the human being calling himself Sergey Brin, also acting as co-founder of the company commonly known as Google, 1600 Amphitheatre Way, Mountain View, California, 94043, phone number and fax number supplied, 22nd of April 2013. Lawful notice to respondent, the human being calling himself Sergey Brin, also acting as co-founder of the company commonly known as Google, 1600 Amphitheatre Way, Mountain View, California, 94043, phone number, fax supplied, 22nd of April 2013. Let right be done, though the heavens should fall. Notice to agent is notice to principal is notice to agent. Notice to agent is notice to principal. I, commonly addressed by the calling of Peter Andrew of the Nolan family, or Joshua Brandon of the Boehm family, hereinafter referred to as the principal in my correct public capacity as beneficiary to the original jurisdiction, being of majority in age, competent to testify, a self-realized and free sentient man, my yes be yes, my no be no, do state the truths and facts herein are of first-hand personal knowledge, true, correct, complete, not just true and correct, certain and not misleading, so help me God. This notice is addressed to the human being calling himself Sergey Brin, also acting as co-founder of the company commonly known as Google, herein also referred to as the respondent. Affidavit with respect to the crime of accessory to slander and obstruction of the course of justice committed against the man known as Peter Andrew Nolan. Item 1. Principal is of legal age and competent to testify. Item 2. Principal has first-hand knowledge of the facts stated herein. Item 3. Principal makes oath that on the date of 2010-10-06 I sent the following lawful notice to Eric Schmidt by way of the published fax number of Google. The lawful notice sent is in the file attachment named as follows: 01 2010 10-06-01, Eric Schmidt, version 0.1 SP PDF. I will now read this lawful notice into the public record and into evidence for this jury. This video will now transition to the reading of this lawful notice. I am now going to read into the public record and into evidence for this jury the lawful notice sent to Eric Schmidt on 2010-10-06. The subject was lawful notice to Eric with respect to unlawful interference of property of YouTube user account Peter Nolan 1109. You can see I sent it here to this fax number. Lawful notice. Notice to agent is notice to principal, and notice to principal is notice to agent. Notice to any human being reading this. If you are not the man calling himself Eric Schmidt, this fax, save a tree, is a lawful notice issued under the common law jurisdiction of the land known as Australia. I also claim the common law jurisdiction of the land known as North America for the recipient, Eric Schmidt. No other human being is authorized to deal with this communication. Eric may choose to delegate this serious communication, but that must be his decision only after reading this lawful notice. This is a very serious and important lawful notice that must not be ignored. Further, this is not a legal document and has nothing to do with the Law Society. Therefore, Eric is well advised not to ask the advice of a legal expert, because this document has nothing to do with the legal system. This document is a lawful notice. Dear human being calling himself Eric Schmidt, salutations. I extend the hand of love and peace and wish to conclude our business with the minimum of bother and fuss. I am sorry to take your time, but something of very great importance is happening that involves the company that you are the CEO of, Google. You will want to know this is happening because you will be held personally liable for the actions of your employees under the common law of the land commonly known as North America. I have a YouTube account in the user ID of Peter Nolan 1109. On this YouTube account I have loaded a video recording of a public meeting with a man calling himself David Dunkley, who also refers to himself as Australian Federal Magistrate David Dunkley. This man committed crimes against me, and this video is part of the evidence for those crimes. The evidence was given to the Prime Minister of Australia, Kevin Rudd, and the Attorney General of Australia, Robert McClellan, in December 2009, with an instruction that they were to address the crimes of David Dunkley. Kevin and Robert have refused to do so for the past 10 months. It is my lawful obligation, as it is your lawful obligation, to bring to the attention of the relevant authority any crime that I or you are aware of. Given that I have made the evidence of these crimes available to both the Prime Minister and Attorney General of Australia, and they have refused to perform their delegated duties, I have now taken the next step of taking the evidence of these crimes to the highest authority in the land known as Australia, that is, the Australian people. I choose to do this by the service your company offers called YouTube. You provide the best service in this area, and I am sure you are pleased I selected your service for this important task. Alas, over the last week, members of your staff, for whom you are responsible, have marked these videos as rejected content inappropriate. I have attempted to communicate with your staff, and they are not willing to respond to me, it seems. I am acting in good faith and honestly believe my question as to why my videos have been marked as inappropriate has been received by your organisation, and that whoever received the question refused to respond. I believe your staff have acted in good faith and honestly believe that whoever is asking them to remove these videos has the authority to do so. I have no issue with your staff or your service. I really like YouTube and I really like Google. Please keep up the good work. I want to draw your attention to the lawful status of these videos and your obligations and penalties with respect to the lawful status of these videos. I have completed a claim of right which has been agreed to by non-response by your Queen, Queen Elizabeth II. Yes, she is still the Queen of the US. A part of that claim of right is the following claim. Quote, furthermore, I claim the right to deal with any counterclaims or disputes publicly and in an open forum using discussion and negotiation, and to capture as electronic video and sound said discussion and negotiation for whatever lawful purpose as I see fit. Unquote. This claim of right, I am told, was communicated to David Dunkley prior to this business meeting, and he was made the offer of cancelling this business meeting or allowing a prior magistrate to deal with it. Since David chose to conduct this business meeting over my non-consent and commit the common law crime of theft against me, he chose those actions and must now be held accountable for those actions. Should you believe you have any authority to deny me the wonderful services of your company in taking the news of these crimes to the highest authority in the land called Australia, please send a certified fax back to the email address above explaining your position. You will need to respond on an affidavit under penalty of perjury and full commercial liability. This is because my claim of right was signed under common law jurisdiction under penalty of perjury and full commercial liability. So to rebut my claim, your document must be issued under the same jurisdiction and same liabilities. I will reflect the affidavit back to your fax number so that no third party can do so fraudulently. Should you mistakenly believe that the authorities of the company called the Commonwealth of Australia have any right to deny the presentation of this video to the highest authority, the Australian people, I assure you they do not. I will copy you a fax letter. I will copy to you a fax, a letter I will write to the Prime Minister of the company called the Commonwealth of Australia. I can assure you that the company called the Commonwealth of Australia is nothing more than a registered legal entity on the US Securities and Exchange Commission, and that it is most certainly not a sovereign nation and most certainly has no jurisdiction in common law. This too has been accepted by Queen Elizabeth II, the Prime Minister of Australia at the time, Kevin Rudd, the Governor-General of Australia, the Attorney General and the Attorney General of Australia. Australia meaning the Commonwealth of Australia in those sentences. Since the people of these officers have agreed that they have no jurisdiction over me or my property, none of their so-called law enforcement or policy enforcement servants can have any such authority. Should your company be further requested to interfere with the dissemination of this critical information to the Australian people, I would ask your company to inform me as to who are the individuals interfering with my property, so that I may lawfully and peacefully communicate with them and ask them to provide an affidavit signed under penalty of perjury and full commercial liability as to their claim they have any authority to interfere with my property being displayed by your service. I would also suggest that be aware that you have an obligation to also request from anyone who claims they have any lawful right to interfere in the business agreement between your company and my juristic person for an affidavit signed under penalty of perjury and full commercial liability. The company called the Commonwealth of Australia is a third-party interloper in the business agreement between your company and my juristic person. The representatives of the Commonwealth of Australia have no lawful right under common law or uniform commercial code to interfere in our business relationship. None at all. Should you fail in your obligation to obtain from the representatives of the Commonwealth of Australia said affidavit, relaying it to me, and continue to block my content, I will hold you personally liable under common law for not living up to your contract you offered me to place videos onto your service. Since Google is very rich, I can assure you I will convene a common law de jure jury and tell them whatever money that they fine your company for doing this will be given to young boys. I hope the de jure jury will make a remedy instruction in line with the wealth of your company and the need of young boys around the world. Simply put, you have a lawful obligation that you chose to enter into by offering your service, presenting your terms of service and my acceptance of your offer. These terms of service are offered in conjunction with common law, as I am claiming common law jurisdiction. So Eric, my suggestion to you is this. I suggest you, 1. Find out who it is in your organization who is marking my videos inappropriate content. 2. Tell them to cease and desist. 3. Find out who it is who is asking for your staff to commit this crime. 4. Tell them that they are not welcome to incite your staff to commit crimes by deceit. 5. Tell them that if they have an issue with the videos I have placed on YouTube, they should talk to me directly and not hide like the cowards they are. If you doubt my seriousness, if you think I am a man to be trifled with, please be aware I am putting a family court judge on trial in Ireland, 2 magistrates in Australia, as well as my ex-wife. I am working with many men to bring the rule of law back into Australia and Ireland. Many of your staff will also benefit from my work because I am also putting an end to the tyranny of the family courts all around the former British Empire, including the US. Since you have men working for you in many former British Empire countries, you will be doing these men an enormous service by assisting me in this matter. The family law is vastly biased against men around the world. This is unlawful and it must be ended. You can play your part and assist your fellow men by helping me bring the rule of law to Australia and Ireland and end the tyranny of the family courts in the Western world. Millions of men will thank you for doing this. In my opinion, your best approach is to take the approach, quote, I want no part of this problem, deal with it yourselves, unquote. because I am perfectly willing to bring a common law case against you personally, should you not ensure that your employees not infringe my common law rights. I am also perfectly willing to tell men that when you were offered a chance to be a strong stand for the reintroduction of the rule of law for Ireland and Australia and for the tyranny of the vastly biased family courts to be ended, that you failed your fellow men. All my lawful notices will be made public, so as well as acting according to the common law that you are subject to, you might consider acting consistently with how you wish to be perceived by your fellow men. Eric, censorship is the primary tool of tyrants. I suggest you, quote, do no evil, unquote, and do not engage in censorship in something so important as bringing to the ultimate authority in Australia, the Australian people, evidence of crimes being committed by the Australian legal fraternity. I look forward to your full cooperation and assistance in this very important task. Signed by yours truly. And of course dated 06/10/2010. This concludes the reading into evidence of the lawful notice to Eric Schmidt dated 2010-10/06. Thank you for listening. Item 4. Principal makes oath that on the date of 2010-10/07 I sent the following lawful notice to Eric Schmidt by way of the published fax number of Google. The lawful notice sent is in the file attachment named as follows: 02 L 2010-10/07/01 Eric Schmidt V0.1.sp.pdf. I will now read this lawful notice into evidence and into the public record. This video will transition to the reading of this lawful notice. I am now going to read into the public record and into evidence for this jury the lawful notice I sent to Eric Schmidt on 2010-10/07. This was the next day. Okay, so again, lawful notice to Eric Schmidt, 1600 Amphitheatre Way, Mountain View. Subject: lawful notice to Eric Schmidt with respect to unlawful interference of property of YouTube user account Peter Nolan 1109. Lawful notice, notice to agent is notice to principal, and notice to principal is notice to agent. So, dear human being calling himself Eric Schmidt, salutations. I extend the hand of love and peace and wish to conduct our business with a minimum of bother and fuss. Firstly, I want to offer you the opportunity of keeping this correspondence confidential. Should you give me your word over your signature that you will agree to this event being kept confidential, I will do so apart from my closest confidants, who will have a copy of this letter for my protection. You can use my return email address above. If you act as an honest man of honor and integrity, then we can work together for all mankind's benefit, okay? I have some new information which you will wish to be made aware of, as it reveals criminal activity inside your company, Google. I will hold you personally accountable for this unlawful activity should you not deal with this unlawful activity in an appropriate and timely manner. That means a manner that is acceptable to me. Eric, I am an expert in computer system security, amongst other things. I have come into possession of an email from your company. How is not important. I have every reason to believe that it is legitimate and not a fraud. Your people and your company will be able to confirm to you if this email was or was not sent from your company. You have the best search engine around, so I'm sure you'll be able to find this email or the log of this event if it happened. I recommend you find out if this email was sent from your company. The text of the email that I have come into possession of is as follows. Quote, this email confirms that we have received your infringement notification for the following videos, and a video is listed, and that is one of my videos. To provide the uploader with an opportunity to remove or rectify their video of their own accord, we will generate an email to the uploader registering your complaint. Your privacy is respected during this process. At no point will your identity or contact information be released to the uploader. The uploader is then allowed 2 days to rectify the situation before it comes under review by the YouTube team. During these 2 days, you will be allowed to retract your claim at any time by following this link and confirming your retraction. And you can see help, YouTube, support, etc. But notice the email address, SIOP-ID 463asio.gov.au. Regards, the YouTube team. Eric, you are quite legendary in the IT business, but I am also deeply suspicious that Google is nothing more than an MI5 front, and that you know that. How you respond to me will influence that suspicion one way or another. The link is mine, and it was one of those removed. No one from your company contacted me, as your company's email says they would, and no one contacted me after my query, hence my lawful notice yesterday. I want you to take notice of the email address, SIOPS-ID 463@asio.gov.au. ASIO is the MI5 branch in Australia, like the CIA is the MI5 branch in the US. The email address would indicate a PSYOP, which I am sure you know means psychological operation. This is an attack on the mind of those involved. That is, the Australian government is running a PSYOP to discredit me. Standard stuff. It seems my placing the video of my court meeting in the Australian Federal Magistrates Court on your service is upsetting some people. Good. I cannot believe how sloppy these people in these intelligence agencies are. That I was able to come into possession of this email and for an intelligence agent to complain about a YouTube video using a PSYOP address at a government department, it would be ludicrously funny if it were not so serious. These are the people who think they are so much better than the rest of us that they should be running the world and we should be their slaves. Please, dumb as rocks. This email, which I have every reason to believe is genuine, which you can easily confirm is genuine, if it is genuine, this is now the situation. 1. An Australian government agency is running an unlawful operation to discredit me. 2. Someone in your company was willing to receive this email and pull down my videos without going through your normal protocols of contacting me. This is a crime under common law, and I expect it is also something that you would personally frown on. YouTube has a reputation for fairness in the taking down of content for terms of use violations. I am prepared to swear under oath that in my case, your company did not do that. 3. Right now, you have plausible deniability. You are in the position where this incident has just been brought to your attention, and therefore no responsibility can be laid at your feet by me. Should you choose to not do as I request, your plausible deniability will evaporate pretty quickly, in my opinion. Basically, someone committed a crime and you are now aware of this crime and have all the information you need to find the culprit. Failure to do so will make you an accessory after the fact, and whoever this minion is not worth you going down for, Eric. What I would ask of you in the most professional and polite manner is as follows. 1. Please assign one or more trusted staff members to find out who the employee was that took down my videos from this complaint. 2. Please deal with that staff member however you feel most appropriate. After all, it is completely clear from the requesting email address that the person sending it was a government agent. 3. Let me know in absolute confidence who it was and what was done as evidence you dealt with the situation in a manner acceptable to me. It is very likely I will have an asset near the person to check that you told me the truth. Abused fathers are everywhere. 4. Please write me an affidavit sworn under oath that you undertake the following. A. You, and I mean you, the man, not your juristic person, will never knowingly cooperate with the unlawful, meaning common law, meaning knowingly cause injury, harm or loss, activities of MI5 and its child agencies like Mossad, CIA, ASIO, as well as a host of others. B. that you will not allow any of your employees to remove any more of my videos from your service you offered me and let them do so with impunity. You will personally see to it that should any employee of yours take down one of my videos, that the employee will be punished for committing that crime. If you don't do that, I will do it for you. Eric, let me be blunt. Your company was just caught breaking your own policy at the behest of a corrupt government, the Government of Australia, and a corrupt intelligence service, MI5, being in this case the child agency ASIO. Do you want this to get out? If not, I suggest you meet your lawful obligations to assist me break the news of the crimes of our governments. Well, it's a little bit late now. It's out now. Your company promotes the slogan, "Do no evil." Well, your company was just caught doing something very, very evil, the suppression of the lawful obligation to inform the highest authority of a common law land of crimes being committed by the government. You and I both know that for tyranny to be brought in, as they want to with their New World Order, freedom of speech and the opportunity to make crime committed by the government visible to the public has to be shut down. An employee of your company was just caught doing that. This is the single most serious thing your company could be caught doing, Eric. You know it. If you do not send me the affidavit by Friday the 15th of October, I will go public with the fact that you condone the suppression of the reporting of crimes by MI5. I'm sure you understand that the news of that would do for you and your firm. You and I can have a private agreement where you agree that no one takes down my videos and you appropriately punish anyone else in your company who does. I suggest you make my account untouchable. And Eric, I certainly hope for your sake that you are not part of the great work of the ages and have not knowingly chosen to be a part of the New World Order. I have written letters to the likes of Ban Ki-moon, Gordon Brown, Angela Merkel, Kevin Rudd, and plenty to Queen Elizabeth. I even have a letter from the German government saying, and I quote, "For completeness, I inform you that the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights is an important document, but it does not, and was never supposed to, contain legally binding provisions." I wrote back to Angela Merkel that the last leader of Germany to say something like this went down in history as a rather unpopular fellow. I asked her to please make her position clear. I also asked Ban Ki-moon to please make his position clear. They are both silent as a church mouse. How about that? World leaders, when asked if the Universal Declaration of Human Rights applies to, all humans universally, they refuse to respond. What does that tell you about them? I'm sure it tells you something about me. When I go public that Ban Ki-moon was not willing to put in writing under oath that the Universal Declaration of Human Rights applies to all humans universally, what do you think his credibility rating is going to be? That's right, it's going to be 0. It will be the same for you should you refuse to make oath that you will at no time cooperate with the unlawful activities of MI5 and its child organisations. It's your credibility, Eric. How you maintain it is really up to you. I recommend you be honest. It's signed by me, page 4, and that was on the 7th of the 10th, 2010, as you can see. This concludes the reading into the record, the public record, and into evidence, the lawful notice I sent to Eric Schmidt on 2010-10-07. Item 5. Principal makes oath that on the date of 2010-10-21, I sent the following lawful notice to Eric Schmidt by way of the published fax number of Google. The lawful notice sent is in the file attachment named as follows: 03L2010-10-2101 Eric Schmidt V01 SP PDF. I will now read this lawful notice into the public record. This video, the video Stream will now transition to the reading of this lawful notice. I am now going to read into the public record and into evidence for this jury trial the lawful notice I sent to Eric Schmidt on the 21st of the 10th, 2010. This is the fax transmission cover sheet. You can see the destination telephone number, 2 pages, 1 minute 46 on 2110 at 1537. And this is what was sent. Date 2010-10-21. Subject: lawful notice to Eric Schmidt with respect to unlawful interference of property for YouTube user account Peter Nolan 1109. I will skip the notice at the front, given that it is covered in previous ones. Dear human being calling himself Eric Schmidt, salutations. I extend the hand of love and peace and wish to conclude our business with the minimum of bother and fuss. Firstly, I want to offer you the opportunity of keeping this correspondence confidential. Should you give me your word over your signature that you will agree to this event being kept confidential, I will do so apart from my closest confidants, who will have a copy of this letter for my protection. You can use my return email address above. If you act as an honest man of honor and integrity, then we can work together for all mankind's benefit, okay? I have further news from my last fax to you. Last evening, the new set of videos from my YouTube account were marked as inappropriate content, thereby making them not visible to those who wish to see them. I have lawfully noticed you 2 weeks ago that someone in your organization had committed the crime of taking down my videos, and I asked you politely and professionally to look into this very serious matter. These videos are evidence of crimes committed by an Australian Federal Court magistrate. To remove them is a crime of perversion of the course of justice, or obstruction of justice. This is a very serious crime, Eric. I can assure you that I am perfectly willing to accuse you of this crime and put you on trial if you do not find out who in your company is committing these crimes. You can and will be held accountable for the actions of your employees if you do not take remedial action in a reasonable time frame. I suggest you find out who the employee is that is interfering with Peter Nolan 1109 and that you discipline him/her as previously suggested. Now, I will be placing my videos back on that channel. If they disappear again with no contact or discussion with me, as has happened twice now, I will hold you personally liable under common law, and you will be brought to trial for the crime of accessory to the perversion of the course of justice. The jury will have every right to order a remedy statement, and since you are a very wealthy man, they may be very generous in that remedy instruction. Especially when I tell them that I do not want a cent from the remedy, I will insist that all money goes to form some form of charity. Further, if you do commit this crime, you will waive my offer to keep this correspondence confidential. I will go public with the fact that you have chosen to be an accessory to suppressing the reporting of a crime to the ultimate authority, the people of Australia. Think carefully about what you do, Eric, because you will be held accountable for your actions. And I suggest you think about just how many men will see you as a traitor for suppressing the evidence of the crimes of the family court. Many men work for you who are victims of this family court. You will lose their respect forever. It's your credibility, Eric. How you maintain it is really up to you. I recommend you be honest. Signed, and of course, as per normal, dated 21/10/2010. Original documents signed by me. This concludes reading into evidence the lawful notice I sent to Eric Schmidt on 2010-10-21. Thank you very much for listening. Item 6. Principal makes oath that on the date of 2011-10-18, so about 1 year later, I sent the following lawful notice to Eric Schmidt by way of the published fax number of Google. The lawful notice sent is in the file attachment named as follows: 04L 2011-10-1801, Eric Schmidt, SP, PDF. I will now read this lawful notice into the public record and into evidence. The video stream will now transition to the reading of this lawful notice. I will now read into evidence the lawful notice I sent to Eric Schmidt about 1 year later on 2011-10-18. Subject: lawful notice to Eric Schmidt with respect to unlawful interference of property for YouTube user account Peter Nolan 1109 and unlawful publishing of material pertaining to me on peternolanpsychopath.blogspot.com. Lawful notice. Notice to agent is notice to principal, and notice to principal is notice to agent. I won't repeat the lawful notice at the top. 1. Salutations and introductions. Dear human being calling himself Eric Schmidt. Salutations. I extend the hand of love and peace and wish to conclude our business with a minimum of bother and fuss. I thank you for making sure that my video evidence of the crimes being committed by the members of the Australian government have not been removed in the last 12 months. I appreciate your intervention in the matter of the freedom of my 21 million fellow Australians. I will note that the Australian government is somehow blocking these videos into Australia. I will deal with the details of this in this lawful notice. I am also now informing you that a hate site has been set up on one of your services called Blogger. I have allowed this hate site to stand. However, this hate site seemingly has now been a part of me being financially impacted, and it is time to go. I will lay out this lawful notice for you as clearly as I can. I ask that you give this your consideration, as I will be holding you personally responsible for outcomes of the tools of your company. I have resent the facts of 1 year ago so that you can easily recall my situation without having to find that facts yourself. 2. Lawful notices. Dear Eric, you are hereby lawfully noticed of the following items for which you will be held personally accountable and responsible. 1. Many of the videos on the YouTube channel Peter Nolan 1109 are being blocked into Australia by your YouTube service. A lawful notice to the Prime Minister of Australia has not resulted in these videos being unblocked. Since you were made aware that these videos contain important evidence of criminal activity by the members of the Federal Government of Australia, you are being held responsible and accountable for the suppression of material evidence of a serious crime. 2. There is a website called peternolanpsychopath.blogspot.com that is hosted by your Blogger service. I have allowed this website to stand for nearly a year now. Many people have seen it and seen the defamation that is present on it. I have also screen captured portions of it as evidence to be put into the jury trial process for those who created it. 3. My name, Peter Nolan, and my calling, Peter Andrew of the Nolan family, and all variations of this, and my image are my property under common law and are covered by a worldwide copyright. The fee for violating this copyright is 1,000 troy ounces of 99.99% pure gold. You are hereby lawfully noticed that I withdraw my permission, effective immediately, for Google or any subsidiary of Google or any company in which Google owns a majority interest to store or display my name or my calling. Five. You are hereby lawfully noticed that you have until the date of 2011-10-30 to remove my name, my calling, any images of myself from any and all computers your company may own. You are to remove me from Google search. You are to make my name a ghost as far as Google search is concerned. I assume that you have the ability to do this with little or no expense at all. You are free to write to me and explain your case if this is not the case. Clearly, as you search the web, you are making the presumption that the material you are reading can be read and indexed. I am rebutting this presumption and formally and lawfully telling you that, in my case, you have no such lawful right and that you are to cease and desist immediately. And Eric, it should be plain to you that should other men find out they have the lawful right to remove their names, callings and images from your searching databases, that the complexity and time contained in doing that will very, very severely injure your business. You are well advised to consider this in your response to my request to be, quote, removed from Google, unquote. Three, proposed remedy. Eric, given the lawful notices above, I propose the following remedies. 1. I propose you find out who in your company has supported the blocking of my videos into Australia for these last 12 months, and you hand over the person's name to me with evidence for prosecution in our new courts. Should you fail to hand over this criminal, you will be accused in his or her stead. I have ample evidence and witnesses this video is being blocked into Australia. You will be found guilty of suppression of evidence of a crime and perversion of the course of justice. I assume you do not wish to be put on public trial, so it is a far better thing to throw the criminal blocking this evidence into the, quote, wood chipper, unquote, than choosing to be put on trial yourself. 2. I propose you send a personal email to whoever looks after things like my YouTube account and ensure that no video on it is interfered with in any way anymore. It may no longer be blocked into Australia. I have some very important videos to make and share. You will be personally held accountable for any further blocking after 2011-1101. With respect to the peternolanpsychopath.blogspot.com site, I propose that you are to ensure this site is removed from the web and from all searches by 2011-1101. Should that site be active on 2011-1101, you will be accused of copyright violation, slander and perversion of the course of justice. You will subsequently be put on trial for these crimes and the jury will issue what they consider to be an appropriate remedy instruction, which is what is happening now. 4. With respect to peternolanpsychopath.blogspot.com site, I propose that you cause those in your employ to hand over to me all records as to who was behind this site, the IP addresses of said Illuminati Ingrid, the email addresses used, and any and all information that has been given to your company in order for this site to be hosted by you for so long. 5. With respect to your silence on the issues of men being criminally abused by the criminals in your government and your family law courts, you, Eric, have had a year or so to investigate the crimes of the government and the crimes in the family law courts. As far as I am aware, you have not at all used your massive wealth and massive audience to tell the truth about what is really going on in these courts. Worse still, you and Larry and Sergy are all men who could at any time be falsely accused of rape or sexual harassment, just like the former head of the IMF, Dominic Strauss-Kahn. DSK was jailed, demonized, vilified, perp-walked, handcuffed for the world's media based on the false allegations of a woman. All these actions were unlawful, as the common law is very clear. A man is innocent until proven guilty. Despite the same could happen to you and Larry and Sergy any time you stay at a hotel, you and Larry and Sergy stayed silent during this process, despite the fact you knew that the government were committing crimes, Eric. I find your silence a real disgrace. I really do. You tried to present yourself as an honourable man, yet you did not denounce the crime of an unlawful arrest of DSK, even though you could be next. So I propose you and Larry and Sergy help out your fellow men a bit. You have the money and the media coverage, the company, the means. Eric, You are going to help your fellow men, your fellow brothers. You can do it just because it's the right thing to do, or you can do it to avoid being labelled for your silence. I really do not care which way I get you and Larry and Sergy to help the millions of men who are suffering terribly while you live in the lap of luxury. I only care that I will get you to help them. I would prefer that you and Larry and Sergy choose for yourselves that you take the position that you are going to help your fellow man, your brothers, because it is the right thing to do, okay? I have spent about $500,000 on this project. It has been every cent I had. I was not a wealthy man, as I raised 4 children over a period of 20 years. They kidnapped my children. They even stole my house off me to try and stop me. They have failed. You and Larry and Sergy would find that kind of money falling down the back of your couch. You and Larry and Sergy are wealthy beyond all imagination of the common man. So I propose that you and Larry and Sergy meet my efforts one for one. You can afford it. $500,000 is a pittance to you. I propose that you become the sponsors and benefactors of a new association I am creating called the Men's Business Association. I am proposing that each of you put in $500,000 as donations to get this association off the ground. I propose I will be the only signatory to the association bank account that will be based out of Switzerland. I propose that I will give the 3 of you full accounting of all monies invested and that the finances of the MBA will be fully transparent to you. By the way, if you wish to also fund a women's business association, the same amount, I would actually welcome such. Perhaps the wives of some of the wealthy men in your company will start a women's business association that is the mirror image of our men's business association. I would love to see women being honest in business. I would love to see women who make false allegations prosecuted by women. I would love to see that. 4. The Men's Business Association. I will explain more. I can give you the founding documents. The Men's Business Association is my personal idea that will liberate men from the enslavement of the governments around the world. You are now seeing the fake Occupy protests. These protests are being managed by the Illuminati to create the controlled opposition. In the end, the fake leaders of this fake movement will demand more government or better government, etc. It is as plain as the nose on your face that Occupy protests are fake. I, on the other hand, am launching the Men's Business Association that will create a framework of common law that is outside the jurisdiction of any government. There will be no rules that must be obeyed and can be punished with force in the MBA. All participation is voluntary. To begin the Men's Business Association, I had planned to fund it myself, but having given this some consideration, I think that it might present you and Larry and Sergy an ideal opportunity to be seen as supporting the men that you make so much money out of via your company Google. Men have made you wealthy beyond your wildest dreams by being willing to pay advertising dollars for riding on the back of your technology. You could see it as a great personal opportunity to give a little of their money back to them and help them escape their slavery by supporting the Men's Business Association to create a framework for men to do business outside the jurisdiction and therefore influence of any government. You will be seen as heroes by the men you are helping, though you might also be seen as a villain by the governments you are defying. If you do not wish your names to become public, I can organise for that to happen too. The first thing the MBA needs is websites. I have a small firm that I'm going to use for this work. I'm going to host the sites out of Germany or Switzerland. I am intrigued at the idea that you, Eric, might wish to also assist your fellow men by giving them some machines, some support, some bandwidth, so that we can get our first sites up and running. Google has so much capacity that to give us a little would be a rounding error. We could sign up some men from your company as associates and they would take oath to be honest men and to always act lawfully. The Men's Business Association is going to have its own rule of law, its own courts, its own peace officers, its own passports. It will be everything that is needed for a man to live and work and raise a family outside the jurisdiction of any government. It will be peaceful, though it will defend its members with force should that be needed. And Eric, since the donation I am asking you to make is 110% for the Men's Business Association and not me, you might consider this. I am now down to my last 20,000 euros, though I do have a little money coming my way soon. If you choose to fling me some crumbs from your table for the work I have done that will benefit so many men, I would appreciate that. If Google would like to get into the hosted business intelligence business or data warehousing business, I am one of the world's leaders in this area. My colleagues and I have developed the best data models and the best ETL tool to perform hosted business intelligence. You might give consideration to asking one of your experts in this area to talk with me about this. Google could license or buy our software for a rounding error that would allow me much more time to focus on the Men's Business Association. I have fought the good fight on my own dime for 4 years. I have been successful. The rollout of the Men's Business Association is now inevitable. The question I put to you, Larry and Sergy, is whether you wish to assist me roll this out more quickly by putting some money into it, or do you wish me to have to struggle on the shoestring to save the lives of so many men? I look forward to your response. I am available to fly over to California to discuss this idea with you face to face if that is what you would wish of me. Yes, this is important to all men on this planet. It's time for us to live in peace. It's time for us to create a separate system of law that protects and upholds the rights of men and defends them when they are the victim of crime. Are you willing to join me in this? Very likely the most important endeavour in human history. 5. Notice of intent. Eric, I wish also to notice you as to my intent should you not meet the proposed remedy of ensuring that my videos are not unblocked and my name and calling and image are not removed from your computers. I reserve the right to form a de jure court manned by men on a de jure jury to put on trial those who cause me injury, harm or loss, also those who violate my copyrights. My name, calling and image are copyrighted worldwide. There can be no argument that these things are not my personal property. I recommend you do not test me on my willingness to put you on public trial. The Peter Nolan psychopath site has just cost me a contract, it seems. I have no way to be sure. When you take a look over it and see it has been going for a year, you will see how much effort the Australian government is putting into slandering me and others. You might have some sympathy for me on this point. How would you like someone to do the same to you? So I fully expect that you will do as I ask in removing this site because it is the right thing to do. But again, I do caution you that I am holding you responsible for this site should it be there after 2011-11-01. Eric, it does not please me in any way to put you on the spot like this. It really does not. You put yourself in your position. I'm just dealing with the man in the position. This is nothing personal, okay? No matter who was the head of Google, they would be hearing from me now, male or female. On the subject of the suggested donations to the Men's Business Association, these are exactly what I say they are, a suggestion for a donation such that you and Larry and Sergy can be seen as standing up for men and taking the position a man is innocent until proven guilty, not the other way around. I, for one, do not like having to denounce my brothers for not standing up for the rights of other men and speaking out against crimes committed against men. I would rather be championing my brothers for doing what I am doing, boldly speaking out against criminals and for honest people, especially men. But so few men are willing to speak out like this anymore. The women have hated on them so much and intimidated them so much that they have become meek kittens. Shadows of men, not willing to speak the truth for fear of retribution from women, for wanting nothing more than justice when our rights are violated. A lot of men work for you, Eric. I think it's time they know what sort of man they work for, one way or another. Who that man will be, what that man will say, what that man will do in the face of so much crime being committed, even against your employees who are men. That is up to you, Larry and Sergy, to decide for yourselves and then present to your brothers. Will you present yourselves as men who are brothers who wish to assist men? Or will you present yourselves as men who will stay silent when crimes are committed against your brothers? Will you present yourself as standing for all men are innocent until proven guilty? Or will you stand for all men are potential criminals and need to be shackled and perp-walked like DSK no matter they have not yet stood trial? Are you willing to be hated on by women for standing up for all men are innocent until proven guilty? I leave all this in your hands to consider. I am available to speak with you at your convenience. Again, I signed it, and it was on the 18th of the 10th, 2011. This concludes the reading into evidence of the lawful notice I sent to Eric Schmidt on 2011-10-18. Thank you for listening. Item 7. Principal makes oath that on the date of 2012-01-27 I sent the following lawful notice to Eric Schmidt by way of the published fax number of Google. The lawful notice sent is in the file attachment named as follows: 05L2012-01-2701 Eric Schmidt V01SP PDF. I will now read this lawful notice into the public record and into evidence. The video stream will now transition to the reading of this lawful notice. I will now read into evidence the lawful notice I sent to Eric Schmidt on 2012-01-27. The subject: lawful notice to Eric Schmidt with respect to unlawful interference of property for YouTube user account Peter Nolan 1109 and unlawful publishing of material pertaining to me on peternolanstalker.blogspot.com. Now I won't reread the notice at the top. We'll start here. 1. Salutations and introductions. Dear human being calling himself Eric Schmidt, salutations. I extend the hand of love and peace and wish to conclude our business with the minimum of bother and fuss. I thank you for making sure that my video evidence of crimes being committed by the members of the Australian government have not been removed in the last 16 months. I appreciate your intervention in the matter of the freedom of my 21 million fellow Australians. I note that the Australian government is somehow continuing to block these videos into Australia. I will deal with the details of this in this lawful notice. I am informed that senior members of the Australian Federal Police are aware of this unlawful blocking and are not acting so as to cease blocking this video into Australia. I am also now informing you that another hate site has been set up on your services called Blogger. I wish to have this new hate site removed. peternolanstalker.blogspot.com. I will lay out this notice for you as clearly as I can. I ask that you give this your consideration, as I will be holding you personally responsible for outcomes of the tools of your company. I wish you will provide me the email address of an employee at Google so that I can more easily inform you of these hate sites as they are created. Lawful notices. 2. Lawful notices. Dear Eric, you are hereby lawfully noticed of the following items for which you will be held personally accountable and responsible. 1. Many of the videos on YouTube channel Peter Nolan 1109 are being blocked into Australia by your YouTube service. A lawful notice to the Prime Minister of Australia has not resulted in these videos being unblocked. Since you were made aware that these videos contain important evidence of criminal activity by the members of the Federal Government of Australia, you are being held responsible and accountable for the suppression of material evidence of a serious crime. 2. There is a website called peternolanstalker.blogspot.com that is hosted by your blogger service. This has been newly created. I wish it removed. 3. My name, Peter Nolan, and my calling, Peter Andrew Nolan, and all variations of this, and my image are my property under common law and are covered by a worldwide copyright. The fee for violating this copyright is 1,000 troy ounces of 99.99% pure gold. You were lawfully noticed in October that I withdrew my permission, effective in October, for Google or any subsidiary of Google or any company in which Google owns a majority interest to store and display my name or my calling. You have not complied with my wish, and you now have a very large liability for that non-compliance. You are hereby lawfully noticed that I plan to put you, yes, you personally, on trial over this violation of my copyright, of my copyrighted materials. I own my calling, my name and my image. I have copyrighted them. I properly, lawfully noticed you of this fact. You have no right to reproduce any of these things on your services unless you are putting them forth as evidence of a crime I have committed. The jury will agree with me. Your copyright violations just made me a wealthy man. Google has plenty of money to offer me a remedy for your continued violations of the copyright of my copyrighted materials. I suggest you make an offer so as to keep this lawful notice out of the public domain. Three, proposed remedy. Eric, given the lawful notices above, I propose these following remedies. 1. Since you have refused to give me the details of those who are blocking my video channel into Australia, you are going to be put on trial before a jury of your peers for the accused crime of aiding and abetting known criminals, suppression of evidence of a crime, and obstruction of the course of justice. We will allow a jury of your peers to decide what remedy you should make for refusing to hand over any and all information you had access to in order to determine the identities of those who are actively suppressing the evidence of a crime. 2. With respect to the peternolanstalker.blogspot.com site, I propose you are to ensure this site is removed from the web and from all searches by 2012-01-31. Should that site still be active on 2012-02-01, you will be accused of copyright violation and accessory to slander. You will subsequently be put on trial for these crimes, and the jury will issue what they consider to be an appropriate remedy instruction. 3. With respect to the peternolanstalker.blogspot.com site, I propose you cause those in your employ to hand over to me all records as to who was behind this site, the IP addresses of said Illuminati Ingrid, the email addresses used, and any and all information that has been given to your company. With respect to your silence on the issues of men being criminally abused by the criminals in your government and your family law courts. You, Eric, have had a year or so to investigate the crimes of the government and the criminals in the family law courts. As far as I am aware, you have not at all used your massive wealth and massive audience to tell the truth about what is really going on in these courts. Worse still, you and Larry and Sergy are all men who could at any time be falsely accused of rape or sexual harassment, just like the former head of the IMF, Dominic Strauss-Kahn. DSK was jailed, demonised, vilified, perp-walked, handcuffed for the world's media based on the false allegations of a woman. All these actions were unlawful, as the common law is very clear. A man is innocent until proven guilty. Despite the same could happen to you and Larry and Sergy any time you stay at a hotel, you and Larry and Sergy stayed silent during this process despite the fact you knew that the government were committing crimes, Eric. I find your silence a disgrace. I really do. You try to present yourself as an honourable man, yet you did not denounce the crime of the unlawful arrest of DSK, even though you could be next. I propose that you and Larry and Sergy use a little of your enormous wealth to donate to the Men's Business Association to get it started to help out men who are being criminally victimised by the criminals in the family courts. It is a real shame that you do not want to do that. Men who have the capacity to help out with virtually no effect on their own part really should help their fellow men. It's a disgrace that men will not do this. I recently emailed 60 plus of my former business colleagues, many of them millionaires, to ask them to assist me in the process of reintroducing the rule of law into Australia. One told me not to write to him again, and one questioned my sanity. The rest said and did nothing. When those men have a problem, they should be left to their fate, because when one of their own asked them to assist in this very important matter, they turned a deaf ear. Are you, Larry and Sergy, going to turn a deaf ear to men who send me emails like this? Now, I have no way of knowing if this is genuine, but this is an email that I received. I have been sacked from my job due to being locked up on the basis of a false allegation of his ex-wife, is why he was locked up. Also, I have the family courts chasing me for $3,000 of child support. I am nearing the point of killing myself. I have no money to feed myself. Soon I will be cut off from the internet and electricity, let alone my rent. I am stuck with no way out at the moment except suicide, which is looking better each day. My kids hate me because they've been poisoned by their mother with crap. I hope you understand. At the moment I'm living off baked beans from the charity. As I said, I have no idea if that person was real or fake, but there are plenty of men out there who are real, who are in this situation through the family law courts. I get emails like this very regularly. I have spoken to no less than 3 men who have told me they put the gun in their mouth and tried the hardest to pull the trigger and been unable to do it as they want to be there for their kids. Larry and Sergy are young men who are tremendously lucky and tremendously talented. They have great wealth. Are they willing to ignore men like this and simply let them die? Or are Larry and Sergy interested in seeing men like this have a path to justice like me? Men who are so terribly criminally abused are only looking for one thing, that justice not only be done, but that justice is seen to be done. The answer to that is fair and just courts that are open, transparent, fair and just. Fair courts are the best mechanism mankind knows to properly dispense justice. Alas, our courts are now a criminal cartel. Are you, Larry and Sergy, willing to assist me on this point or not? It is a simple question. I would like a simple answer, please. And yes, it will be made public, as it is now being made public over a year later. There is no longer any doubt that the courts are a criminal cartel. Google operates in pretty much every country in which these criminals in these courts operate. Many of your employees are men who have suffered at the hands of the criminals in the family courts. Are you going to abandon your employees, as so many have abandoned the man quoted above? And if you do abandon such employees and such men as quoted above, what right will you have to complain if, because they have no due process of law available to them, they take the law into their own hands? 5. Lastly, I propose you provide the email address of a trusted employee so that in the future I can write to the employee via email and not have to print this out and sign it. Hate sites about me are cropping up on a regular basis. I would now like them to be removed more quickly. Notice of intent. Eric, I noticed you that should you choose not to provide me with any and all information as to who was blocking my video and who ran the Peter Nolan psychopathblogspot.com site, then I would put you on trial before a jury of your peers. This is now my declared intent. It would have been a very simple matter for you to provide me with this information so that I could prosecute the real criminals. By refusing to do something that was very simple for you, you have committed the crimes of aiding and abetting known criminals and obstruction of the course of justice. I claim the right to accuse you of these crimes at a later date. Should you not make remedy for committing these crimes, I will convene a de jure jury and ask the jury to determine the remedy instruction that is most appropriate. Because you are such a wealthy man, the jury is likely to issue a remedy instruction that takes into account your wealth. There is no point fining you $1,000, as that is meaningless to you. All men are equal before the law. It seems you need to learn the lesson that when you are asked by your peer, me, to hand over evidence of crimes against me that you will surely have, that you have a lawful obligation to do so. It is a crime to hide criminals so they cannot be prosecuted, Eric. You are old enough and well informed enough to know that. You have plenty of access to the best lawyers who would tell you in an instant that you cannot hide criminals from the due process of law. It is up to you, Larry and Sergy, to decide your actions for yourselves and then to present your actions to your brothers. So far, you have presented yourself as being willing to hide criminals and to abandon men criminally victimized by the family courts. You might want to reconsider your actions. So, I will ask you again, will you present yourself as standing for all men are innocent until proven guilty, or will you stand for all men are potential criminals who need to be shackled and perp-walked like DSK no matter they have not yet stood trial? Are you willing to be hated on by women for standing up for all men are innocent until proven guilty? I leave this in your hands to consider. I am available to speak with you at your convenience. Signed by myself, and of course 27th of the 1st, 2012. This concludes the reading into evidence of the lawful notice I sent to Eric Schmidt on the 2012-01-27. Thank you for listening. Item 8. Principal makes oath that on the date of 2012-03-12, I sent the following open letter to Eric Schmidt by way of the published fax number of Google. The open letter was also requested to be passed to Sergey Brin. The open letter sent is in the file attachment named as follows: 06L2012-03-1201, Eric Schmidt V01 SP PDF. I will now read this open letter into evidence and into the public record. The video stream will transition to the reading of this open letter. I am now going to read into the public record and into evidence for this jury the open letter I sent to Eric Schmidt, copying Larry Page, Sergey Brin and Mark Zuckerberg on 2012-03-12. The subject was the open letter to Eric Schmidt regarding your upcoming criminal abuse in the family law courts. Almost as poetic justice, Eric Schmidt found that he was going to have his turn in the family law courts. Please remember, at this stage I'd been writing to Eric Schmidt for over 18 months about the issues of the family law courts. And Eric, I don't know the final details of what happened, but Eric then had his opportunity to experience the joy and wonder of the family law courts. And Larry, Sergy and Mark Zuckerberg are also likely to experience the joys and wonders of the family law courts over time. For example, Larry, Sergy and Mark, being young men, are just as likely to have their children taken away from them as Tom Cruise had his daughter taken away from him. Okay? So apparently Tom Cruise is not good enough yet, and if Tom Cruise is not good enough, then Larry, Sergy and Mark certainly won't be good enough should their wife or partner unilaterally decide to remove their children from their lives. Okay? So this is what this is about. And it's interesting that Eric Schmidt has had the opportunity to experience having millions and millions of dollars taken off him because his strong, equal, empowered wife was married to him for no better reason than she married him. Okay? Like being married to him produced that money at all. Had anything to do with producing that money. So on the event of Eric going through a divorce and being involved in the divorce courts, I sent him this open letter. 1. Salutations and introductions. Dear Eric, this document is merely an open letter and not a lawful notice. I am copying Larry Page, Sergey Brin and Mark Zuckerberg. I am also making it public to the MRA world. I am copying Larry, Sergey and Mark because, as young men, they too are fourth-class citizens in their own country, as are the men who work for them in the English-speaking world. As men who are very well known and very wealthy, they might like to know just what fourth-class citizens they are, their male colleagues are, and they might want to do something about it. Whatever Sergy, Larry and Mark do, it will be observed by the men who are their employees, as well as the men who are their customers. Sergy, Larry and Mark will be judged by these men based on their actions, so they are well advised to choose wisely. Their future reputations rest on their choices and their actions. Because it is a public open letter, there are items that I will refer to but leave details out of this letter. Some things are best not so widely circulated for the benefit of those who are innocent and being slandered by the services your company provides. That I am being slandered by the very service your company provides, and you have seen fit not to stop when politely asked? This makes you, Larry and Sergy, responsible for the crime of slander that your services are disseminating about me and various colleagues of mine. You are going to make remedy voluntarily as a gesture of owning up to being responsible, or you will make remedy as a result of a court case to require you to take responsibility. I suggest the former. It also makes you, Larry and Sergy, responsible for the unlawful use of my calling and image that is being disseminated by your services. This is a copyright infringement. You are asked politely to remove my name, calling and image from your services. The link to the copyright contract is here, and you can see the link to the copyright contract. I have created Appendix 1, Summary of Details to Date, for those who read this open letter to catch up on the details. Now you are about to be a victim of the criminals in the family courts. You might like to read my case in more detail. It would do you good. The printed, signed and scanned version of this letter is available on this link, and the link is provided. 2. My reason for writing to you. I read recently that you are about to be one more victim of the criminal legislation called family legislation, though sometimes fraudulently called family law. It is not law, it is legislation. Given that, 1. You were very politely and professionally asked to provide me with the details of those in the Australian Security and Intelligence Organisation, ASIO, who have been slandering me using your blogger services, yet you refused to do so. 2. You were informed of the criminality of the Australian government in October 2010, and you chose to ignore that despite having many employees in Australia and Google itself colluding with the criminals in the Australian government. 3. You have refused to provide me with the information as to who in the Australian government or its agencies has committed the crime of suppressing evidence of a crime by blocking my video on YouTube of my court meeting where a man calling himself David Dunkley clearly commits the crime of impersonating a public officer, namely a magistrate. 4. You have refused to make a donation to the Men's Business Association so as to be able to launch it and provide the infrastructure services to assist other men in great need who have also been attacked by the criminals in the Law Society when you were politely asked to do so. To make it clear to others, I asked Eric for a donation that is the equal of mine, despite the fact that my spend on this has been everything I ever earned, and for you it would be a trifle, that being about $500,000 US. Given all this, I cannot really say that I feel too sorry for you that you are about to be robbed by the same criminals who robbed me and millions of other men by the same criminal legislation. Perhaps the next time a man asks you to assist him find criminals and put them on trial, you will meet your lawful obligation to do so. If you had assisted me when I first talked to you in October 2010, we would be done by now and you would not be facing such an expensive divorce. If you are in any doubt at all to the current judiciary in the US and the a legal fraternity are criminals, and that the family law that is in place is a criminal set of legislation, then I suggest you read this book. It is an excellent research text of great scholarly detail. It really is not up to be challenged. Speer spent many years researching this book and producing the facts of the matter as they were best known at the time. And you can see the link there. The book is called The Pied Pipers of Babylon by V. K. Speer. If you wish a little more evidence, I also suggest you go to www.thespearhead.com and www.avoiceformen.com and read what men have been saying for years about the criminals in the legal fraternity and the family courts. Men are quite aggrieved that those men of wealth and influence have refused to recognize the issues of men further down the hierarchy, especially when the men of wealth and influence make their money off the men further down the hierarchy. You would likely learn much by talking to the editors of these two publications. I recommend you do so. You might also read this link, and the link is supplied. This is my criminal family law lawyer in Australia, Justin Dowd, lying his head off about legislation and statutes being superior to common law. Justin's problem was that I already had a speech by the Attorney General Robert McClellan that clearly stated that individual rights, for example property rights, were left to the protection of the common law by the writers of the Australian Constitution. Robert also cites numerous cases in Australia where this was found to be so. Justin Dowd was pretending to never have heard of these comments, never have heard of these cases or this speech. When confronted about his lies, he refused to apologize and make amends. The same is true in the US. The US remains a common law jurisdiction, and the common law is available to all men who are sovereigns who claim its protection. Justin Dowd, for his willingness to lie and steal, was rewarded with the presidency of the New South Wales Law Society. If you think that it is any different in the US, I have news for you. So Eric, there can be no doubt that 1. You know the Law Society is a criminal cartel. I just told you and gave you plenty of evidence to back up that claim. Not reading it would be a mistake. 2. You know that family law is not law but legislation. 3. You know that thousands of your male employees have suffered at the hands of these criminals, as have millions of your male customers. You have the position and the money to take a stand against these criminals. Mind you, they will rob you just like they robbed me, but you can sustain that robbery better than I could. Your friends Larry and Sergy can loan you endless amounts of money to see you through any hard times. Further, in the end, you have a much higher profile to gain your soon-to-be stolen assets back than I did when the same happened to me. I was just one more schmuck worked over. You are world-renowned. 5. You, Larry, Sergy and Mark have the public position to bring public attention to the criminal activities of the family law courts and the criminals in the, quote, law society, unquote. You, Larry, Sergy and Mark have the money and resources to challenge your divorce in such a way that would help tens of millions of other men. Lastly, there can be no doubt that you, Larry, Sergy and Mark have large numbers of men who are employees and millions of men who are customers who would benefit greatly if you would make the effort to assist men like me reintroduce the rule of law into the English-speaking world. I am sure your male customers would appreciate your help. If your female customers do not like the reintroduction of the rule of law, if they do not like losing their legal advantages over men, then let them start their own companies and compete with you, who will then be heroes to millions of men. Do you really want customers who hate you so much that they want to see you robbed? Eric, you have the opportunity to assist me to create the situation where those men who can live in freedom from the tyranny of the criminal Star Chamber family courts and the criminal women who wield these criminal courts as their own personal gold mines. There can be no doubt that many men will judge you, Larry, Sergy and Mark, based on how you handle your divorce and how these men support you in this process. We are all brothers. It will be clear to the millions of men who are your customers that if you go along with the criminals in the courts and the government when you have the resources to stand against them, that you are turning your backs on your fellow brothers like me, who have risked our lives and all we ever own to expose the criminals in the government and the law society, to assist our brothers who cannot take up such a fight. The three of you are likely to be judged harshly by men should you turn your backs on them. You are likely to lose customers and employees for doing so. Maybe that concerns you, maybe it does not. Maybe it concerns you to be seen to be standing up for truth and justice for the benefit of all. Maybe it does not. I really do not know your heart. How you respond will tell us. Given all that, Eric, what am I offering you? Why am I writing to you? Why so publicly? I'm offering to come and work for you on your divorce case to the end that we expose the attempts of to criminally victimize you, as well as we expose the criminality of the family courts across the English-speaking world. Your wife actually has no lawful claim to any of your property. You have every right to give her whatever amount you please, and that includes nothing. I have proven this to be the case. So by hiring me, you will get the chance to decide for yourself how you will provide for your soon-to-be ex-wife. In hiring me to assist you, you will be sending a message to all men who work for you and all men who are your customers that you are going to make a stand against your criminal government and the criminal law society. You are sending a message. You are going to do it for the benefit of all men who are your customers and employees. You will be standing up for truth and justice and the defence of the rights of all men to retain the property that they have worked so hard for over a long period. It will be a case not about Eric Schmidt, but about Joe the plumber, Bill the bricklayer, and Bob the electrician. Every man. Men like you and me can sustain heavy losses. We can just go out and earn some more money. But the average man in the English-speaking world is destroyed by the criminals in the divorce courts and can never recover from that criminal abuse. This is why so many of them commit suicide. Those men who kill themselves and their children, who are so often orphaned, are my specific concern. Are they your concern too? So how about it, Eric? Are you willing to hire me to take on the government on your behalf? I will do it for my normal consulting fee, which is going to be far less than any of the criminal family law lawyers is going to charge you. My criminal family law lawyer, Justin Dowd, had the temerity to charge me $400 Australian per hour to lie to my face. If you wish to know what I know and have it validated by some experts in common law for credibility, feel free to give them the link to this book that I have typed up, which is the remedy that can be used against the criminals in the law society and family law courts. And the link is supplied. Using this remedy, the criminal David Dunkley, while pretending to be a federal magistrate of the Australian Federal Magistrates Court, was not able to establish jurisdiction over my property, so he had to go ahead and steal my house. Of course, stealing is a crime, and now he is going to stand trial for that crime. Eric, it took me the best part of 4 years and 3,500 hours to do all this. During that time, you made tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars on your Google stock. While you were busy focusing on making money, I was busy focusing on developing a remedy that would help you and other men keep the proceeds of your labour safe from the criminals in the courts being wielded by gold-digging ex-wives who want to be paid for the mere fact they were married to a man while he worked hard to make money. The remedy works. The proof is in the video and the subsequent court order where David Dunkley had to blatantly lie to say that the jurisdiction of the court was never challenged, when it is clear on the video that I stated numerous times that I did not agree with the jurisdiction of his UCC court. Here is the court order you can read for yourself. Here is the court order, and you can read for yourself the blatant lies that are in it. And the link is there. The book is being offered to you for free, just as it is offered to all men in the English-speaking lands for free. There is even a 2-hour video that goes with it. The only fee I'm asking is my due for my time to work directly on your case, something that is insignificant to you and not that big a deal for me. However, the public profile of your case would mean that together we could make serious progress in gaining justice for so many criminally abused men. How about it, Eric? Are you, like me, willing to take on the criminals in your government for the benefit of your brothers? Or are you going to be one more man who rolls over and pays up to their extortionate demands so as not to be attacked by the criminals in the government? Choose wisely. Your choice will be public. I would even give you the chance to make it in private if you had done the right thing and assisted me when I asked politely for you to do so. And you can see it's signed by me on 2012-03-12. And now I want to read the appendix, the summary of details to date, and I will read this into the public domain and evidence into this and as evidence for this jury. This is for people new to my case. In November 2007, my criminal ex-wife, Jennifer Toll, committed the crime of perjury and submitted a perjurious affidavit to the criminal cartel calling itself the Family Law Courts in Dublin, Ireland. These documents and subsequent documents can be read on this link. Contrary to popular belief, it is perfectly lawful to publish family law documents. I have proven this over and over again. And the link is there. There ensued a series of criminal acts against me by the criminal calling himself Judge Griffin of the Family Law Courts in Dublin, Ireland. Many are covered in the above link. Since it was immediately obvious that Judge Griffin was a criminal scumbag, I wondered about this whole family law thing. There was certainly more to it than met the eye, and more than was reported in the media. I wondered how this Judge Griffin could be such a criminal scumbag, and no one know about it, and no one report it. It soon became clear that the Irish government was also fully populated with criminal scumbags. I wondered about the lawyers as well. How could they not know about this? For those who wish to read about the case in Ireland, you are welcome to click on the two following links, and the two links are provided there. I immediately responded to this criminal attack by Jennifer by starting a family law case in Australia. The stated policy was, quote, scorched earth policy, unquote. I do not negotiate with criminals like Jennifer. I conduct a war where the policy is total destruction of those who brought the war to my door unwanted. The only other option is unconditional surrender and appropriate remedy for bringing an unwanted war to my door. Jennifer and her family were to learn the lesson that criminally attacking me does not pay. Since all actions of the criminals in the courts and the Law Society were on the foot of the criminal act of perjury by my criminal ex-wife Jennifer Toll, any time and expense I was forced to expend to defend myself is fully claimable at law from Jennifer and anyone who supported her knowing she had committed this crime. All members of the Law Society that I dealt with were made aware that Jennifer had committed the crime of perjury. They pretended that they did not know this was a crime that had to be remedied and continued to feast on the financial carcass of the family finances like the criminal scumbags they are. A special mention in this open letter must go to Pierce Neary of tracysolicitors.ie, and the address is there. Pierce played his part well. He's a likeable young man. I gave him many chances to walk away from the criminals in the government and the Law Society. I also gave him the chance to simply return the money he took from me for his bogus services, plus a little interest. But it seems Pierce has made his decision to stick with his criminal cartel. He will also be prosecuted for contract fraud. He will be publicly denounced. In summary, I spent 18 months studying the criminal family legislation system and the criminal government systems of Australia, Ireland and the Western English-speaking world in 2008 and 2009. The result of this was that I developed a remedy based on the great work of many other people. That remedy was tested on November 26, 2009 and proven to work. Here is the video of that remedy working, hosted on Eric's fine product called YouTube. The audio is not 100% clear as I was only using a small flip video camera. The transcript is on the link below, and it is annotated to explain what is going on. It is actually easier just to read the transcript. The video is about having hard evidence of the areas of the transcript that have been faithfully documented. The transcript does have lies in it, and these lies are obvious. And the link is there. This has since moved. The other important piece is at the end, where I challenge David Dunkley to answer the question as to whether he is serving under his oath of office. He refused to answer this question twice, and was therefore not serving under his oath of office. He was therefore committing the crime of impersonating a public officer. A pretty good impersonation too, as the video shows. Most people would be taken in by that. A lot of good props, including government buildings and staff, paid for with tax dollars. The whole lot is a criminal enterprise. The subsequent order is here. Note the lies told in the order. There is even the ludicrous claim that I did not deny the jurisdiction of the court. How blatant can lies be? And the link is there for the order. If you would like to read the details of the case in Australia, then click on the following links. I have published all relevant documentation. There are quite a few documents. An important one is this. This is the document to transmit all documentation and the video to the then Prime Minister Kevin Rudd and Attorney General Robert McClelland, and to call on them to prosecute their employee at the direction of their master, me. They are my servants, public servants. And the link is provided. The summary is this. I determined that the governments of Australia and Ireland were criminal cartels operating in collusion with the legal fraternity. How many politicians are lawyers? The banks, the media, the medicos, and so on. They have erected a monetary system that serves as a control grid. It is called the International Monetary Fund. Via the legal fraternity, they can seize property in a criminal fashion via their courts, which operate in admiralty jurisdiction. This book will give you a very good background on what happened to the legal systems in the English-speaking world, and that book is The Pied Pipers of Babylon by Verl K. Speer. A very good book. I recommend men read it. I studied the situation and collaborated with others to develop a remedy that I thought had a good chance of working. On November 26, 2009, I tested this remedy in the Australian Federal Magistrates Court. The remedy worked even better than I had imagined, even though I was so stressed at the time. The criminal David Dunkley had no choice but to commit the crime of impersonating a public officer, namely a federal court magistrate, and he did it in front of at least 12 witnesses, including 2 federal police. All this can be clearly seen on the video linked above. The entire suite of paperwork and video were then served on to Kevin Rudd and the Attorney General Robert McClelland. These two, of course, did nothing and therefore became accessories after the fact to the crime of impersonating a public officer of David Dunkley. Further, David dispersed 95% of my property to my wife, and so Kevin and Robert became accessories to those crimes as well. In April 2011, the entire Federal Parliament of Australia and the Parliament of New South Wales were lawfully noticed about these criminal acts. You might like to read the links here, and the link is supplied. The entire membership of the Australian Federal Parliament chose to continue their criminal actions and were reminded of this in these open letters, and the 2 open letters are supplied. The result is that all members of the Australian Federal Parliament are now criminals who have accepted their criminal status. They have refused to admit their crimes, resign, make remedy, and have a managed transition to honest men. Therefore, they must all be placed on trial in the new People's Court of Australia. We are now establishing these courts. Switching back to Ireland, in 2010 the Prime Minister and President were served lawful notices of the criminal acts against me in 2007-2008. Here are the links provided. Neither the Prime Minister or the President did the jobs they were being paid to do and remedy the crimes against me. Eventually lawful notices were issued to all members of the 2 Houses of Parliament in Ireland. The second lawful notice denounces all members as criminals and the Irish government as not legitimate. There is now also the crime of discrimination based on sex committed by the Naturalisation Department in Ireland to deal with. And here are the links, both links provided. Further, all police in Ireland were lawfully noticed of the crimes being committed and have done nothing, thereby making themselves accessories after the fact. And here is the link. For the average reader, I know that is a lot to take in. Most people look at the evidence I have collected and dismiss it out of hand. These people deserve the criminal abuse of the Law Society for their willful ignorance of such important information that was so hard won. I took the precaution of impeccably documenting the criminal cases I am bringing so as to ensure there is no question as to the guilt of the people involved. There can be no excuses, nowhere to run, and nowhere to hide. This means I will have remedy for the crimes committed against me, as it is my responsibility to gain such remedy. Of course, this has been a mountain of work over 4 years. It is directed to the benefit of all fathers in the English-speaking world, most of whom actually hate me for even doing this. During this time, my own business pursuits were adversely affected, and these losses must also be compensated by those who refused to bring my case to the existing courts when they were asked to do so, namely Kevin Rudd, Robert McClellan, Mary McAleese and Brian Cowan. These people have more than enough money to compensate me for the loss of income from my business during this period. The current situation is that we are now forming the People's Courts of Australia and the People's Courts of Ireland to process the cases for all members of the Houses of Parliament in both countries and any other criminals that have been properly accused of crimes. Those in government and the Law Society have chosen criminal activity over performing the roles that they claim to perform. When asked to perform the roles they claim to perform, they have failed to admit their crimes, make remedy, and go back to acting lawfully. Therefore, the People's Court of Ireland and the People's Court of Australia are new alternative courts that are superior to any UCC court of the Law Society. After all, the members of the Law Society know full well that no organisation may have a monopoly on providing services to the people. The people have a right to select their own service provider for any and all services. This includes law services. For the cases of criminal acts against fathers, these law services will be delivered via the Crimes Against Fathers site worldwide, and the address is shown. And the People's Court of Ireland and the People's Court of Australia for a start. Other men are well advised to form People's Courts in other lands. If they want help, they can hire me. Once the People's Courts are established, there is also a need to be able to transact business internationally and hold courts for business transactions. So we are also starting the Men's Business Association so as to be able to transact business outside the jurisdiction of the criminals in the governments and Law Society. I claim the right not to be compelled to do business with criminals. I claim the right to freedom of association. I have not seen any rebuttal to these claims. The website for registrations of expressions of interest to join the Men's Business Association is here, www.mensbusinessassociation.com. We're starting a whole new system that operates outside the Admiralty law jurisdiction of the existing English-speaking governments, based on the claim that we do not consent to their criminal activities and have no obligation to consent to their jurisdiction or their courts. Thank you for reading this far. I hope you are now far better informed than you were 9 pages ago. Again, 2012-03-12, this was sent to Eric Schmidt, Larry Page, Sergey Brin and Mark Zuckerberg. And for those of you who are listening, it's obvious that those 4 men have the wealth and the profile to make a significant contribution to ending the tyranny of the family law courts. Thank you very much for listening. Item 9. Principal makes oath that on the date of 2012-05-22, I sent the following lawful notice to Eric Schmidt by way of the published fax number of Google. The lawful notice was also requested to be passed to Sergey Brin. The lawful notice sent is in the file attachment named as follows: 07 L 2012-05-2201 Eric Schmidt, V01 SP PDF. I will now read this lawful notice into the public record and into the evidence and into evidence for this jury. The video stream will now transition to the reading of this lawful notice. I am now going to read into the public record and into evidence for this jury the lawful notice I sent to Eric Schmidt, also copying Larry Page and Sergey Brin, on 2012-05-22. The subject of the letter was the lawful notice to Eric Schmidt regarding copyright infringement on Google Blogger and slander on Google Blogger. Lawful notice. Notice to agent is notice to principal, and notice to principal is notice to agent. 1. Salutations and introductions. Dear human being calling himself Eric Schmidt. Salutations. I extend the hand of love and peace and wish to conclude our business with a minimum of bother and fuss. On the date of 2012-01-27, I sent you a lawful notice with the subject of lawful notice to Eric Schmidt with respect to unlawful interference of property for YouTube user account Peter Nolan 1109, unlawful publishing of materials pertaining to me on peternolanStalker.blogspot.com. I have resent you a copy of this lawful notice so that you do not have to have one of your staff find it for you. As far as I can tell, you did not respond to that lawful notice. I am, therefore, following up with one more lawful notice to advise you of your current situation and to offer an opportunity for a proposed remedy that does not involve bringing you to a public trial. I have been very professional, very patient, and very polite to you, Eric. In return, you have colluded with criminals to slander me and cause me issues with my business. Is this how you would wish to be treated? If not, why treat me this way? We are equal before the law, Eric. I recommend you do not forget that fact. 2. Lawful notices. Dear Eric, you are hereby lawfully noticed of the following items for which you are being held personally accountable and responsible. As the Executive Chairman of Google, there can be no doubt you had the authority and responsibility, and therefore liability, to act on my prior lawful notices. 1. There is a website called peternolanStalker.blogspot.com that is hosted by your Blogger service. I asked politely and professionally that it be removed on 2012-01-27. It is still active. My name, Peter Nolan, and my calling, Peter Andrew Nolan, and all variations of this, and my image are my property under common law and are covered by a worldwide copyright. The fee for violating this copyright is 1,000 troy ounces of 99.99% pure gold. 3. You were lawfully noticed in October and again in January that I withdrew my permission effective in October for Google or any subsidiary of Google or any company in which Google owns a majority interest to store or display my name or my calling. You have not complied with my wish to remove my copyrighted material from your sites. You now have a very large liability for that non-compliance. 4. You are hereby lawfully noticed that failing payment of the proposed remedy, I plan to put you on trial over this violation of my copyright and my copyrighted materials. You have no just cause to have my calling and my image on your sites. 5. A colleague of mine, Casey Zevenbergen, was slandered on the site peternolanStalker.blogspot.com. Casey was labelled as a sex tourist on a site that you had been politely asked to remove some 4 months earlier. The screenshot of this is in the appendices. This makes you personally responsible for the publication of this slander by refusing to remove the site when politely asked. 6. I will be personally representing Casey in his criminal slanderer case against you, Eric. How would you feel if the CIA went around labelling you a sex tourist and publishers allowed such to stand after you had asked them to remove such slander from their publications? Do unto others as you would have them do unto you, Eric. If you would not like to be slandered, then do not enable the slander of others. 3. Proposed remedy. Eric, given the lawful notices above, I propose these following remedies. 1. Since you have refused to give me the details of those who are blocking my video channel into Australia, you are going to be put on trial before a jury of your peers for the accused crime of aiding and abetting known criminals, suppression of evidence of a crime, and obstruction of the course of justice. We will allow a jury of your peers to decide what remedy you should make for refusing to hand over any and all information you had access to in order to determine the identities of those who are actively suppressing the evidence of a crime. I am not particularly interested in a sum of money for this crime. It was my position you should hand over evidence of criminal activity when asked politely. We shall see if a jury agrees with me. 2. With respect to the peternolan.stalker.blogspot.com site, I propose you were to ensure this site was removed from the web and from all Google searches by 2012-01-31. I noted that should that site still be active on 2012-02-01, you would be accused of copyright violation and accessory to slander. I proposed you will subsequently be put on trial for these crimes, and the jury will issue what they consider to be an appropriate remedy instruction. Should you wish to avoid such a public trial, I am setting my fee at $500,000 to not bring forward such a case. I have been very professional and very polite to you, Eric. In return, you have hosted hate sites by ASIO slandering me. You carry responsibility and liability for such slander, since you are asked to remove the site very politely and very professionally, in writing I might add. If you think that these hate sites are not affecting me, I can tell you that I was removed from a consulting contract with one of the world's best known companies when they Googled me and found the previous hate site published on your property. I was rather ingloriously marched out of the building. The client, being so large, simply did not want me around since I was a person of some controversy and was subjected to a hate site by ASIO. This inhibition in doing my business is why I wish my calling and name removed from Google Search. Google Search is the default search engine. I am now relaunching my business, and I wish that people who Google my name not find these hate sites or anything else about me. I wish to disappear from Google Search. I am sure you can organize that so that my business is not inhibited by your properties presenting slanderous materials to my prospective clients. Imagine how you might feel if the situation were reversed. My company is www.instantbi.com. 3. With respect to Casey Zeverbergen, Casey has advised me that he is willing to settle for the nominal sum of $50,000 for your property hosting the slander that he is a sex tourist. If you fail to make this nominal fee payment, Casey agrees that your criminal act be put to trial and allow the jury to decide the proper remedy. Given your fabulous wealth, $50,000 is a rounding error. I rather think that trying to go to trial to defend the indefensible and taking a chance on the jury making an example of you is very inadvisable. 4. Notice of intent. Eric, I noticed you that should you choose not to provide me with any and all information as to who was blocking my video and who ran the peternolanpsychopath.blogspot.com site, then I would put you on trial before a jury of your peers. This is now my declared intent. It would have been a very simple matter for you to provide me with this information so that I could prosecute the real criminals. With respect to the peternolanpsychopath.blogspot.com site and my calling being still in Google searches, if you choose not to pay the relatively small fee for you of $500,000, I propose that we go through the jury trial process in a properly convened common law court. We will not be using your criminal friends in the US legal system. We both know that this fee is nominal to you, but it will do a great deal for the many men I am helping who have been criminally victimized. With respect to the case of Casey Zeverbergen, should you not be willing to pay the nominal fee of $50,000 for being responsible for hosting the site that slandered him, having been asked politely to remove it, we will bring you to trial in a properly convened common law court. Eric, all men are equal before the law. You may be fabulously wealthy, you may be a part of the Illuminati plans, but that does not give you any right to host slander and to violate well-established copyrights, especially when you have been so politely and professionally asked to remove this slander and these copyrighted materials from your properties. You are no different to a magazine publisher. You do not get to publish slander just because it is done automatically. The automation of search engines is no excuse for publishing slander to your properties any more than an editor of a magazine saying he could not be bothered to review the articles in his magazine would be a defense for slander. Above all, you are a publisher. Should my case come to a common law court, it will have massive ramifications for Google. If it does go to court and I win, the jury holds you liable and awards a remedy to me, what do you think all those litigious Americans whose copyrighted name you have on your properties are going to do? Do you think they might not then demand their removal, and if Google fails, then bring another case with the precedent set? If my case ever becomes public, you and Google could be in a great deal of process and financial trouble, Eric, all for not removing one site and one man's calling when politely asked. I hope you think becoming an accessory to criminal acts against me was worth it. I hope you think that becoming an accessory to criminal acts against me was worth it. I have been very reasonable with you, Eric. I wished no conflict with you. I just wished my name and calling and slander of me removed from your properties. Apparently this was too much to ask, so you need to be shown that all men are equal before the law and that no matter how fabulously wealthy you are, you cannot go around committing crimes with impunity. A shame a man such as you needs to be taught this lesson so late in life. I am available to speak with you at your convenience. And it's signed and it's dated 2012-05-22. Appendix 1, Slander of Casey Zeverbergen. Eric, for your information, this is a slander of Casey Zeverbergen hosted on your property long after you were asked to remove this property from your site. And there's a photograph of my friend Casey. Okay? And it's on peternolanStalker.blogspot.de, which is how that works. You can download this document and view it on your own desktop should you like. This concludes me reading into the public record and into evidence the lawful notice I sent to Eric Schmidt, Larry Page and Sergey Brin on 2012-05-22. Thank you very much for listening. Item 10. Principal makes oath that based on all of the above evidence, plus a great deal more evidence, Principal formally and irrevocably accuses Respondent of 3 crimes. 1. One count of common law slander where Respondent has willingly and knowingly hosted slander of Principal on his website properties, having been repeatedly, politely, professionally requested in writing to remove said slander from his properties. 2. One count of obstructing the course of justice for refusing to hand over any and all information Respondent had available to him so as to find the perpetrators of the crime of slander. 3. One count of copyright violations by consistently allowing Principal's calling and name to be consistently used on Respondent's properties long after Respondent has been politely and professionally requested in writing numerous times to remove Principal's copyrighted materials from his properties. You can see, further Principal saith not as good as a vow, I have signed it. And this was on the 22nd day of the 4th month of the year of our Lord, 2013. So the 22nd of April, 2013, near Karlsruhe, Germany. Please note that this affidavit has not been countersigned by people living in Germany. In lieu of countersigning, the Men's Business Association stamp has been applied to this page so as to ensure the veracity and authenticity of this document. Further, because principal will read this affidavit into the public record and publish said record via YouTube, the public and the jury can be assured that the man making the allegations is Peter Andrew of the Nolan family, and that these allegations are in no way fraudulent. And you can see that I have applied the stamp of the Men's Business Association. Proposed remedy and notice of intent. This final affidavit of accusation is petitioning the jury to decide innocence or guilt of the respondent given all information presented to the jury. If found guilty, this final affidavit of accusation is petitioning the jury to issue the following remedy instructions. 1. A writ of execution to recover the amount of $500,000 from respondent's personal property as a proposed remedy payment for constantly posting slander of my good name for a period of more than a year after his executive chairman being asked to remove such slander. 2. A writ of execution to recover the amount of $1, yes, that's $1, from respondent's personal property as a proposed remedy payment for the crime of obstruction of the course of justice for refusing to hand over any and all information that would have assisted principal to find the criminals who were slandering him. Now, just as a side note, obviously $1 is a nominal amount for Sergey Brin. I'm not interested in the money for that. What I'm interested in is Sergey Brin admitting that when one of the users of his properties comes to his organization and says, "You are hosting slander of me, which is a crime, and I wish you to hand over the evidence of this crime to me so I can properly prosecute those who are slandering me," that Google has a lawful obligation to hand over that evidence. If you are notified that a crime has been committed, you are required to hand over information that may assist the victim of that crime determine who is committing that crime. Okay? Lawful obligation. 3. A writ of execution to recover the amount of $1 from respondent's personal property as a proposed remedy payment for constantly violating my copyright rights by using my name, my calling, and my image in search indexes that have not been authorized to be used by myself in writing. Again, this is a nominal amount so that Sergy can admit that when somebody says, "Stop using my copyrighted materials in your index searches," they do that. Right? 4. Should the respondent refuse to voluntarily make the proposed remedy payments that are determined to be fair and just by a jury of respondent's peers, then principal petitions the jury to issue an instruction of incarceration or an outlawry writ for the respondent as the jury sees fit. Respondent has until 2013-05-17 to make one of the following actions. 1. Admit his crime and pay the proposed remedy payments and bills as outlined above. 2. Refuse to reply to this affidavit of accusation and thereby accept a default judgment of guilty as accused and have the jury review the evidence to determine its veracity and then to issue instructions as the jury sees fit with no defence from respondent offered. The jury instructions will then be processed according to the due process of law. 3. Reply to this affidavit of accusation contesting the accusations and contesting the items presented under penalty of perjury and full commercial liability. The length of incarceration or the withdrawal of protection of the law to be a matter for the jury to decide. You can see that I've signed it on 2013-04-22. Original document 2013-04-22, signed by me, Peter Andrew of the Nolan family, page 7 of 7. So this concludes reading into evidence the affidavit of accusation to Sergey Brin, co-founder of the company commonly known as Google. Thank you very much for listening.